Well, it's exciting. Thank you so much for attending. A lot of you have traveled to come here. You haven't been at Connect. A lot of exciting things that we have in store for you, hopefully to talk about Linaro. And then once I'm done, which will be relatively quickly, we're going to lead over to open hours, which is Robert Wolff will lead over. But Robert, you can switch the slide for me. Very, very complex slide. It's going to be hard for you to follow all of this. You're going to have to basically see if you can keep track. We're missing, this is blocking what it says there, but can we move that down? There we go. There we go. Very good. I picked this just because I actually, for once, made the middle of the picture there. And this is my 17th one of Linaro Connect. So I was pretty happy about that. I was pretty happy about that. So we'll talk to you a little bit about, obviously, the 5 W's here. But before we get there, there's a couple of W's that I forgot. One of them is welcome so much. I cannot thank Professor Zhang enough for inviting so many students here from the University of San Francisco State. Can all the students just wave their hands up? That's excellent. Thank you so much for attending. We've got a wide mix of people, from students to CEOs of companies, to managers, to engineers. Let me ask you just a couple of questions here before we get there. Before I explain Linaro in very basic terms, because I am not even an engineer. Okay? I am the person who sort of deals with a lot of the people stuff involving Linaro. I've been with the company about 6.5 years. I'm the 16th employee, and I've helped grow a lot of the company to where we're at today. And it's been the thrill of my life. I'll tell you, it's just, if I could say anything to students right now, and I don't normally get a chance to talk to students, it's a potentially amazing time of your life, but it can be confusing a little bit, right, as to what you really want to do. I have 3 adult children that one is now actually working for Linaro, which makes me feel really old, okay? And the other 2 are trying to grow their career and what they want to do, and they know it's not easy. One of the things of being involved with Linaro, if we could start right here, if I had one thing I could ask of you, is to start to know about Linaro. And actually, you have the chance right now to participate with us, and that's a lot about what Robert's going to talk about, which is amazing, and you can get to know, having the sense of community. I was walking with one of our engineers the other day, and actually it was earlier today, and I asked him if you could think of what would be the one message that you would give to students. It would be, I wish I knew about Linaro back when I was in school. And I wish I knew about 96Boards when I was back in school. Because getting involved with the community in engineering is pretty exciting stuff. So let me talk a little bit about the company. We were formed in June of 2010. Not really that old, we're about 7 years now. We've grown to 27 countries where we have people in. About 350 total people involved in the company. Everything from employees, which makes up about half of that number, a little bit less, 150 employees that are spread over the 27 countries. And then what we also have is what's called member engineers and assignees. What most companies call customers, we call members. And we have some amazing member companies. I like to think of it like the gold, silver, bronze level type thing of memberships. But starting at the top, we have core members, where ARM themselves is a member of Linaro, and obviously a very important one as a core member. Huawei in China, core member, and Qualcomm is a core member of the company. And then clubs, everybody from a little company called Google. Has anybody heard of them? The group members, the list. I'm not here. The reason I've got one slide that I'm going to talk to you about is all I'm asking you to basically do is to start to go to Linaro as a source. You can go there, you can download our software, you can download our tool chain. We so heavily deal in open source. Out of curiosity, just a show of hands, and I know that it's such a weird mix because I got people who actually work for Linaro listening to me. who are incredible engineers and a wide mix of people, and then everything from students. But this is more geared towards students, or perhaps someone who this is your first time being involved with Linaro. Prior to sort of being solicited, if you will, from me, have you heard of Linaro? One hand had heard of Linaro. How about have you heard of 96Boards? What's really funny is 96Boards is a little baby. It's one of our little babies, and Linaro is the parent company, right? So this is my cute little baby right here, isn't he? Okay. So it's amazing to me that it's not taught yet enough in your school, perhaps, about who Linaro is. Because we're all about open source software on ARM. I'm hoping that most people know what ARM is. Are there people that, be honest, do you not know what ARM is? Okay. You know that it's basically intellectual property. It's the schematics, if you will, to build a computer chip, an SoC. When I think about ARM, we're reaching out to the whole world and the efforts that Linaro is doing and the effort, obviously, that ARM is doing. You know that ARM is now, the most recent stat, it's in 100 billion devices across the world. I mean, think about it. You're using it every day. You're driving a relatively new car, and you're looking at 15 to 20 different parts of your car that's powered by ARM. I was lucky enough about a year ago to actually be right out here in the Santa Clara Convention Center for ARM TechCon, and I saw the CEO of SoftBank, who just recently purchased ARM, at that time, which was about a year ago, for a measly $32 billion. I mean, think about that, $32 billion he purchased ARM. And his speech was amazing, and I was expecting to not understand it, because I'm not an engineer. I'm part of what I do for Linaro is I'm sort of the people person, hopefully. I deal with getting everybody into the company from the hiring perspective, from recruitment to being involved with our HR, being involved with our training, the people activities that we do, because it's a very engineering-driven company. That's what I hear all the time. We're amazing engineers, and we do. One of the greatest things about Linaro, if I was like a student or I was looking to come to the company, I could think about the fact that if I got to work, and remember I mentioned 2 W's? One of them was welcome, that I forgot. The other W is the warning. I might sound, because I'm so used to this, I might sound like I'm trying to sell you. I'm sorry, I'm somewhat in sales, it's been my whole career. I've been in recruiting for longer than half of my life. I'm not trying to sell you. I'm not trying to, with nothing here, we're giving you stuff away. We're not trying to charge you money for anything. We're trying to give you a free seminar. We're giving you giveaways. You're going to learn about 96Boards. So, but if I'm sounding like I'm selling you, just understand it comes out that way, because I just do sell the company all day and often. Okay? So that's my warning. My other is, if my Boston accent is too tough here, I'm sorry, but I'll try to tone it down if it's not working. So, leading into breaking down the company is one of the things that I have to do. When I'm talking to new engineers that are coming into the company, one of the important things is to try to understand, we have a little bit of different terminologies. So as I mentioned, we call customers members. What most companies call engineering, we can break down to our working groups and our segment groups. Our working groups are some of the things that are basically leading some of the best engineers in the world work for. Might sound like I'm selling there, I'm not. I can actually back it up by statistics, because a lot of our engineers are involved in open source. And Linaro is typically one of the top 5 companies in the whole world contributing to open source, specifically Linux kernel and the Android open source, AOSP. So yeah, I mean, with the work that our engineers do is really truly incredible. It's so amazing for me to work with such bright people. If I was looking to come to Linaro, or I was looking to learn about Linaro, and I could get exposed at your age to the community, and actually to be able to get guidance from some of the most senior engineers in the ARM ecosystem, it would be a great experience. So what I really want you to do is I want you to just get an understanding of Linaro a little bit further. So our main core team is basically our kernel engineers, our power management, our security, and our virtualization teams. We also have segment groups. Segment groups was started in like November of 2012. We started out with the Linaro Enterprise Group. And that is all about, it's evolved, but it basically, the original thought was basically empowering servers in the enterprise more with ARM. So it's more powered by ARM than Intel, if you will. Then we saw the success of the Linaro Enterprise Group, and it was great, and we started getting involved with what we have, the Linaro Networking Group. We have the Linaro Home Group. We have a whole team of engineers dedicated to low-level Android and basically the mobile group. The Home Group is basically dealing with like set-top box industry. Comcast is a member. I have Comcast at my house. I don't know if you see, in California, is Comcast a big one out here? Cable? Okay, great. I don't even know. All right. So then we also have Light. Back to the presentation that I got to see about a year ago from the CEO of SoftBank. His whole reason for purchasing ARM for $32 billion was all about the Internet of Things. And he wants to get ARM, he talks about bringing it to 1 trillion devices. And that's truly amazing. Even if he only, everybody can be really ambitious and have a lot of vision. Maybe it only goes to just a measly, 500 billion or something like that. But just think where ARM is everywhere. ARM affects every day. You're in your house. Turn your lights on. If they're powered, they can be very well powered by the Internet of Things, which hopefully is going to have more and more involvement, as it already does with ARM. So the different segment groups. Did I forget a segment group or two? It's Light, LHG, Linaro Mobile Group. Then we also do some specific work. So pretty much all of our engineers work in open source. Okay. Some, I say all, that's the wrong word. Some of them are working on products that are so bleeding edge that eventually we want to open source them. So it's our member companies will work with like developer services, the other part of our company. A lot of our engineers, what a lot of companies call professional services, we call developer services, and actually that's a relatively new name. It's been called member services. When you think about back to our core members, how am I doing on time? Okay. When you think about back to our core members, we really probably wouldn't, I don't know if I can truly say this. I thought our CTO was going to be here because he was around at that time. But I don't think necessarily, any of our, Matthew Poirier, one of our lead kernel engineers, do you think Linaro would be in business if it wasn't because of ARM from the very beginning? Probably not, right?
Not really.
Not really, okay.
Well, the business is centered on offering open source solution to the ARM ecosystem. So the foundation is there. Of course, we can envision having partnership and working on other CPU platforms, but really the main target, the main platform is the ARM.
Great. Thank you, Matthew. If I think about ARM and the involvement with Linaro, it's really like our top relationship, right up there as one of those core members. And even us a couple years ago, we're having a hard time getting high-powered, efficient 64-bit ARM boards from ARM at a reasonable price. So what can be amazing in the engineering world is that you can come up with an idea, and the idea was basically where 96Boards came from. And we started it with just the thought of, at least the original thought of building boards that would help our developers. And now, as Robert will expand on greatly today in our elite team of people that will sit on the panel for the open hours show that we'll do. He will expand on 96 boards and how it's really starting to grow and affect the whole world. We have it being used in all over Asia, many different places in South America, in Brazil, and throughout the US and Canada and Europe. It's just started from a little idea just a couple years ago. So that's what can happen in the engineering world, because that's really probably the most thing that helps sell me about Linaro, is that our company really helps change the world. We really are. Being involved with this wide width of technology that we are, and being able to power up everything from in the Linux world, and having some of the greatest Linux kernel engineers all the way through all the wide width of things that we do, both now a little bit with hardware. Again, we don't make the boards ourselves. What we do is we hold the spec. We design the board. And our member companies work with us to start building the boards, as Robert will talk about. But I also just want to talk about Robert before he gets a chance to talk about Robert. He has done an incredible job as our community manager. I'm so proud of him. I mean, he's one of the employees that I originally hired. And the way that he has grown, along with others and several other people, even some people in this room here, have grown 96 boards to almost be, that was a strange show of hands when we saw more 96 people knowing 96 boards than Linaro. That's funny, right? But I really commend him. Robert lives in San Diego. He's truly a graduate of San Diego USCD. UCSD, I always get that wrong. UCSD. Not that long ago. He's still a young guy. So it's pretty amazing what he's got involved with, and the other engineers that are in the company and that are involved with our company. I'm just looking at John Mad Dog Hall sitting right here in front of me, is literally sort of famous in the engineering world. I mean, he's been an engineer. I think you created engineering. Is that what it was? No, I don't want to call him out too much, but him being involved in our company. Look up in the history of Linux. Look up lots of different things, and John was involved with that. In closing, over to Robert here. Again, all I'm really trying to do, I didn't want to bore you with a whole bunch of slides. Neither does Robert. All right, there was the accent for a second. Robert. Okay. The whole reason is to make you more aware about Linaro. Go to linaro.org. Go to our downloads page. Go to our wiki. Go to so many parts. Read about our member companies. We are thinking very, very seriously and have started, remember the 3 different levels. We now have an associate level, which is a lot more affordable to universities and small companies. So I can talk to people after this, gladly stay as long as you want, about how could my university, I'm hinting, how could we do things a little bit further with you? And Robert can talk a little bit about some of the things we're already doing in some other universities. Any quick questions on Linaro before we move over to 96 boards? Okay, great, thank you.
So, yeah, as Mike said, my name is Robert Wolff, and I am the 96 Boards community manager. But I've already done this several times in the past. I think this is now the 3rd time I'll be doing this, and I always get back home and then I realize, hey, I should have tried to take a selfie with everyone in the audience. So, if that's okay, I'm going to just do this. And I know I'm copying like what John Masters always does this. I've seen some other people do this, but I'm going to copy everyone. So, if you wouldn't mind just kind of smiling or something. All right, there we go. Cool. Thank you very much. As Mike pointed out, I will be talking about 96 boards. Now, the baby of Linaro, right? This was created, not by me, it was created before I joined Linaro, in fact, in 2015, the early times in 2015, I believe February. A bunch of great minds got together, including our CEO from Linaro, big time people from our member companies got together and said, we need to drive the cost of ARM development platforms down. Not only do we need to drive the cost down, but we need to make these chips easily available, because even if the cost was low and you can't buy it, then it does you no good, right? So reducing the lead times and reducing the cost of ARM development. And this is where 96Boards came from, the idea of 96Boards. And I'm going to ask a question here. Who is familiar with the Raspberry Pi? Many more hands than the 96Boards question, right? What I would like to do throughout this presentation is give a couple takeaways here at the beginning so you can think about it. First is, how does 96Boards differ from Raspberry Pi and other platforms that you may have already heard of, since apparently many of you have already heard of that? And what can 96Boards do for you, right? As well as myself, what can I do for you? So, 96Boards specifications, Mike hinted at the fact that 96Boards is not a hardware company. We hold a hardware specification, and I stole this from Mr. John Mad Dog Hall's article. I believe it was done years ago when 96Boards first launched. People think open hardware specifications, right? Well, I put these quotations around here because it is not an open hardware specification, but rather open hardware specifications, okay? So the specification itself is open, not necessarily all the hardware, but that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because that means that the people who develop the hardware are coming together in I want to say a progressive way to push these specifications into the right place. We want these specifications to be good for everyone. And as long as the right people are involved, then hopefully this is what happens. So, there you go, in square. That's the one. 96Boards holds 3 specifications currently. One which is the consumer edition, and this is the one that you'll most likely be familiar with if you're any sort of maker or just kind of hobbyist. And then you have an enterprise edition and an IoT edition. Now, for anyone who would like to read more about this, you can always go to the 96Boards website, 96boards.org, and there is a tab there for specifications. Schematics, guidelines, everything you need to follow the 96Boards specification. But what is the point of the specification? And I want to encourage anyone, if you have a question in the middle of this, very informal. I'm wearing a shirt, not dressed up or anything. It's an informal conversation if you have anything that you want to talk about. The specification allows us and our member companies, anyone who wants to get involved, including the community, to develop around a universal footprint and a set of different SOCs. Now, let me kind of elaborate on this a little more. If you are developing on for instance, let's use it again, Raspberry Pi. You are working on a certain chip, and as you continue your development on this chip, say maybe it's not the chip you wanted, or you want to go expand to something a little bit stronger, or maybe you didn't need something so strong and you want to go something lower, right? Well, having a series of 96Boards that have there's one hidden under there, a more universal footprint, believe it or not, every single one of these boards have a different ARM chip on there, right? So you can transfer your development across. My phone hurt me when I aimed myself. A bad word. So yeah. Anyway, so you can transfer your development seamlessly across the ARM ecosystem. Okay, using different chips and the current ecosystem that exists with 96Boards. Now, I'm not going to really touch too much on this because the main goal of this whole conversation is to spark questions. Hopefully you have questions for me, but I also want to leave a good half an hour, 20 minutes for a small meet and greet and allow time for our panelists to come up here. But tackling the 96Boards ecosystem and consuming the 96Boards ecosystem is something that allows not only transferable development, but in some cases, and I'm going to use, for example, this board up here, Dragon Board 410C. And now each board has all sorts of different benefits to their boards, right? You allow companies to accent certain things. But this was recently announced within the last year. the chipset on the Dragon board allows for long life development, okay? So imagine now you have a chip that you can develop on, but for purposes that extend a 1 or 2 year need, right? Now, the amount of time that Qualcomm, I believe, has offered support for this chip, Snapdragon 410E, is 10 years, right? I mean, if you're developing something in the medical field, you're not going to get it out in a year. You've got all sorts of things you need to get through to get something out in the medical field, or for that matter, anything that involves people's lives. So there's a lot of development that caters to this type of chip. Now, that's just one example, and I could go on and on for these different examples. But I want to talk about the specification itself just a little more. Pause for questions? No? Okay, so we're just going to address a little bit more about what makes the specification special. As you notice, the standard footprint is our way of breaking out the essential components of each chip. Okay? Now, when you're talking about development, you have the basic IOs, GPIOs, I2C, SPI, UART, right? All these IOs that you would need. Now, there's no sense for a company to go in and create a board that tries to make themselves special in a GPIO. Like, no, unify it. Everyone can have the same GPIOs, everyone can put it on the same headers. That's not something you're going to necessarily sell to someone. But you will sell other things that make yourself special, right? And this allows chip makers and manufacturers to team up and build a product with minimal redundancies in the market, right? So like I said, again, standard footprint. SoC independent, again, kind of touching on that same thing. You can transfer, or you can put any SoC on the same platform. Now, pre-existing ecosystem, as 96Boards continues to grow, and with your help as community members, you jump into an ecosystem that is already very flourishing. And I like to pride myself not on the numbers, okay? Now, 96Boards isn't huge. One day, maybe, I would love that. But our community is engaging and strong, and that is what matters. So even in this room, I'm looking out here, and I see people that I deal with on a weekly, sometimes even daily basis. Right here, Michael Welling in particular, Mad Dog. I'm not going to name everyone. I shouldn't even have started. But there's people in here that are fully committed to the 96Boards ecosystem, and they want to see it grow just as much as everyone else. And that's the difference between numbers and engagement. So we have a very engaging community. This pre-existing ecosystem comes with it. Working initiatives. Because we have such proud and engaging people, initiatives just keep popping up left and right. Now, myself, along with many people in this room and who might be joining us online later during open hours, as well as our panelists, have taken it upon themselves to start really cool initiatives, project organizations, community mezzanine projects, allowing a community to form around different aspects of this ecosystem, which is very needed. In some cases, you can go search for something online and not know exactly what's right until you're picking through page after page after page, and then finally something works. Okay, I found it, right? But when you go to 96Boards, hopefully everything is consolidated and has been checked by the right people, because we have such an engaging community, and these initiatives help drive this forward. Engaging community and strong industry partners. So as Mike had mentioned, we have different groups and some big companies involved, and I don't want to start rattling off names because there are a lot, and there are a lot of very important names. You can go to the Linaro.org website, 96boards.org website, read the about pages, and you'll find lists of companies that are involved with us. And they all care about what you want. They all listen. And they listen because we provide them the channel to listen. And this is something that I found very beautiful, right? And I only recently graduated college, I think 2 years ago now, okay? Not that long ago. And I had not really been involved in open source. In fact, in college I felt I was more the paper engineer, the guy who does all the engineering on paper, right? Well, I would like to push and encourage all of you, the students in particular, the definitely industry professionals in here, but the students in particular, I would like to push all of you to start engaging in practical application, right? And what better practical application than in the open source world on platforms that are sponsored and provided by the leading industries that are driving this movement forward, right? So that's my takeaway from this. And I know I might have not explained 96 boards so much in a nutshell, but if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer it. Before we go into that, I just want to say that we will go into like a 30-minute lull here. I hope that all of you stick around. It's very important to me. We're going to be joined by Daniel Thompson, who is our lead support on the 96 boards and Linaro front. Peter Robinson, who is with Red Hat. I'm not sure if you've heard of Red Hat, but those are probably those red hats you're wearing. Big company. Grant Likely from ARM. So we keep throwing out this word ARM. If you have any questions about ARM, he's the guy to ask. He's also from Linaro not too long ago as well. Gordon Kuber, Gumstick CEO. If you've ever heard of the system on module or the computer on module, he's the guy to talk to. Lawrence King, the team lead and I believe one of the original creators of the Dragon Board 410C, one of the Qualcomm products, and he is from Qualcomm, another big company. Michael Welling, I just talked about him, but he is one of our seasoned community leaders, and I'm very grateful for people like this, and that's why he's here, and I'm glad to have him on our panel, as I am everyone else. So, please, take a chance, maybe go grab some water, a drink, use the restroom. I encourage you to meet the people next to you, take a moment to just say hi, and I'll be up here, I'll be around, and then just check back in 20 minutes or so. The panelists will be up here and we'll be ready to go.
And there's just one thing that I forgot to mention. There was probably several things, but you don't know how many things I forgot. But one of the things I wanted to mention is this is all part of our ARM Connect events. And we do these. This is actually my 17th one that I've attended, a week-long session flying all over the world. The amazing thing is I got the word global in my title, but prior to Linaro, I had never been outside of North America. So how could I be global? But then all of a sudden, I've been to Europe several times and Asia several times because of Linaro. So we've done 22 of these connects. I think this is number 22. I've been here for 17 of them, and it's obviously grown and grown and grown. So that's another way. As an open source contributor, you can go and attend these events. There is a cost typically for attending, but hopefully you can justify once you start working in it.
Just talk with me.
You can justify your company to send you to Linaro Connect. You can get involved in the community, and if you can't attend every single session that these people paid for that are here, right? And there's some people that are probably here that paid for the whole thing, right? It's all online. So go to connect.linaro.org and check out some of the other things that you would have maybe loved to attend. It's all being recorded in live presentations. So thank you very much again.
Yeah. Woo.